are you?
Hi.
So, Davita, what did you think overall?
You know, Chaim Potok is one of my favorite authors. And I have read many other things that he has written. I think he writes really beautifully. However, this is not one of my favorite books that he has written.
Yeah, I read a few with you. I think we did The Chosen together. I think we did. Yeah, this one is a little bit interesting, but like you said, the writing style, I do like his writing style.
This was published in 1986, I believe, which is neither here nor there. And I understood that you're writing from a 10-year-old's point of view, and, 10-year-olds are sweet and nice and naive and whatever. But there doesn't seem to be much development of the character as far as, struggling with life's questions.
I felt there was a lot in there. I almost was thinking, and I don't know if this is true or not, so don't throw the book at me. I was thinking maybe it's the author from his point of view. I think he grew up from a religious background, and then he became conservative. And I was thinking, what if instead of using a boy, he used a girl and kind of had the same questions growing up? I don't know. I was just thinking maybe that might have been something. I don't know. But I thought maybe...
I think that's fine. I think definitely he probably did. The character wrestling with as much as in some of the other books.
Yeah.
It's not as poignant.
It had its own drama, but it was low-key.
Right, yes. Whereas the other books that I've read are very powerful.
Yeah, I found...
I realized that he also wrote My Name is Asher Lev. That one was actually assigned to me in school, in public school, and we read that one in high school. I didn't realize this was the same author.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a very powerful book, and that's my favorite.
I think we should just go through part of the book just to catch everyone up. So I thought it was interesting how the parents, one was Jewish and one was non-Jewish, and I was thinking to myself during those times, that was not realistic to me. Because we have everything, and in those times it was it just didn't make sense that he would give up all of that to one. They didn't have anything in common. She's from Europe. And still use, sadly, immigrants. In my mind, I could not imagine,
I think that's the whole point that he became communist, right? After the incident in Washington.
Yeah.
And once you become a pure communist, then it doesn't matter if you're an immigrant or religion or anything, right? So that's what united them.
Right. Exactly, the cause. And
otherwise, it obviously wouldn't happen, right?
I felt that was her religion. I'm like, she's so cold to everything. I never met a Jewish mother so cold. And then I'm like, but she's a religious communist.
Yeah. No, but that's exactly it, right? Because I feel like people need religion on a very subconscious level. Right. So if you don't believe in God, you do it in something else. And for many, many people, it's communism. And they take it very religious. Right.
I was surprised. I didn't realize that. It was so... I didn't realize to what extent, So... Also, the mother, I believe, was raped. That's something. Yeah, that's something that was interesting. I thought it was strange that when it came to this girl, at some part of the book, it came to this girl, Teresa, and she's crying, and the 10-year-old girl walks into the bathroom, and she's on the floor sobbing. And at some point, we as the audience understand, something's going on, and then the mother really doesn't talk about it. And I thought, maybe she's just it's something so far into the mother, she just doesn't know how to discuss it. But then we remember the little clues that, my father won't let me back in my house because, the Cossacks were really, really bad. Pages here. About, just how the mother was really cold, was not like a real Jewish mother. And when the daughter was asking her about a question about rape, the mother kind of acted like, didn't really give a real answer. She had to look up the answer. She always takes a dictionary. And I felt like at that moment, I think all of us would have wanted to hold that little girl's hand and say, like, just, I was raped. And that's part of the trauma in her life. So that was something that we find a little bit out about. I think, like I was saying earlier, I didn't think it was very realistic that she married a non-Jew for those times, because it's not like, like I guess you could say nowadays, it's more like back then, like, it was so unheard of. Whenever she was bullied, they're like, are you Jewish? Or is your mom Jewish? Yes. Is your dad Jewish? No. And they would just stop. They didn't know what to do. So it was like this whole controversy, and she obviously didn't really, I guess she didn't know really where she stood. This is her question. So this was part of the book. Davita's harp was like this little, you imagine this harp, but it was like this little like symbol on the door. Davita, you want to talk about that? Do you remember
I remember having one as a very young child.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, on the door, and you'd shut or open the door, and it would, the little balls would make little music.
It's cute.
So, it was nice.
But she made such a deal about it.
I guess it was.
It was something incredible. They didn't have a piano, so they had the harp, the Davita's harp. That's really cute.
Yeah, and it just kind of tinkled when you moved the door.
Right.
Was it just like a little decoration? Like,
yeah, it was a decoration. Like, people put up wreaths or little signs, welcome or whatever. It was a little harp that, had little balls on it. And when you moved the door, it banged against the strings and made this little music,
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, I just thought it was cute. So then there's Aunt Sarah, and Aunt Sarah, in my mind, is this really special person, always wanting to help people, but then is like, made it her business to like influence this little girl. And instead of being like what I feel most relatives would be like, okay, like tell me what you want as parents, like when is it too much, like especially in that situation where there was this intermarriage and what's really crossing the line. And instead she's trying to like bring everything into this little girl's mind. So whenever Davita felt like she wanted to go and pray, sometimes she went to the synagogue and she was clueless there. And then she'll come back and she'll be kneeling on the floor and talking as if she went to church, because Aunt Sarah was, encouraging that. I understand where Aunt Sarah is coming from, because she just wants her niece to feel like, that she is a part of her world. But at the same time, I felt it was way over the top. So I guess.
Was the aunt Christian? Is that why?
Yeah.
She would.
I think she was she Christian? I think it was Christian.
Yeah, she was like a missionary.
Missionary, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think for the times that was pretty accurate.
I believe that because I'm a sensitive to his experience, like the mother is Jewish and the father is not, or vice versa. And the children are very confused, because I see it in my neighbors in Toronto, they're telling their kids, you're Jewish, you're Jewish, you're Jewish. So we'll walk with the Star of David, and then we'll do all like a theater and pray stuff, but then they go to Catholic school, and they will do Mass. So, and it's happening right now. And I had a lot of kids in my high school that were Jewish and went to Catholic elementary school. So it is weird, but it definitely happens.
Right. What else? So the father was like this big, huggy person. And again, I was trying to see if that was realistic for the times. I can't imagine, because I think that, especially in America, like in Europe, I feel like, especially, or in the Sephardic world, they're very huggy and kissy, and we always joke around the French with a kiss on both cheeks, and it's like so much for us. We're like, don't come in my personal space. I can't imagine a regular American father being so huggy, but maybe there's exceptions. And the mother was I don't think did she even hug her daughter? I don't think it even mentions that. So again, it was that contrast. So, and then we talk about the cousin. This is when we're first introduced to David. Her first cousin once removed. I think that's what it's called. So her father is a cousin of Hannah, who calls herself Annie. So they meet at the summer home. And of course they're very different. He looks like a religious Jew, and she, looks like a regular person, and they don't have a lot in common. So that's what is going on with them. And then, of course, we're going to meet with them up later, but that was our introduction to them. Also, was I wrong that she kept having bedwettings?
Yes, she did.
I was thinking that was so weird of a male author, and again, don't throw the book at me, to talk about something so private. I write very personal stories, as you guys know, but I would never talk about bedwetting. That's something very, and I was thinking, would a girl that age, 10 years old, like Deborah said, would a girl that age really have bedwetting? Even though she was absolutely traumatized by her parents.
The boy at the age of 10 had bedwetting, right?
Yeah, boys do. But girls? I thought that was...
Girls can happen, but it's very rare. She was very stressed,
Yeah.
I think it happens when children experience trauma in their life.
Well, exactly, as you said, actually.
Yeah, it's just, I didn't feel comfortable with him talking about it. He says, okay, she wet herself, and then he describes her taking off her nightgown and getting naked and going and walking around the house when there was this friend of the family, what was his name? Jacob Dow or something? And he was there, and he would stay up all night writing or whatever, all these interesting, beautiful stories, and some of them were very, we didn't really understand as probably from his trauma coming from Europe, and I thought that was really, I don't know, for me it just was strange. I felt it would be much more comfortable if it was a boy that had bedwettings, and he described that, okay, we could kind of understand, especially that if a 10-year-old boy was naked, I think most would be like, okay, but if a 10-year-old girl is naked, it's a little bit of a difference. So, I don't know.
Maybe that goes with your theory that it really was about him, but he just changed the gender of the child.
Maybe it is. Maybe he had a better range. I don't know, but it was something I was thinking it was a little bit too descriptive for me. The father is a journalist, and so he goes to write, and I guess he went to Washington, and he would write all his different stuff there, and eventually he gets sent away, and as we know, he ends up getting killed, which was really, really sad, because as we know that Davita had a very special connection with her father. But we also see a double standard where the mother's like, this is a really important work, so it's okay if you didn't get any letters and if you didn't get any special stuff, you're just gonna, it's okay. But when her mother was sad and upset that her father went away for one day of the week, that was terrible and wrong because he went to synagogue. So it was a different, and I feel it's also might be from the times. Maybe it's the times, and during those times there are certain jobs that were very important. So I don't know if it was the times or if it was just her.
I still think when her husband Michael died. Somebody was almost going to Arizona and he's not fully recovered. She's like, no, you need to have room to go. I feel like she's sending him to die. I woke up at night and I knew that Jacob Doe is with spending the night with my mom.
I did not catch that. So then she starts going to the synagogue because she wants to find comfort there, and she just doesn't.
Bored, and didn't she do something to one of the kids?
She was bullied, and she said something. I think that she said something like that was so controversial. I think it was about the communists, not about religion, which is so strange. But I think that's why nobody wanted to talk to her, because it was very not common, especially back then in the country, to be completely pro-communist their opinion was, be pro-American, pro-capitalist. So her viewpoint really, I guess it scared everybody. So she had to be quiet. But then to go to this other school, I felt that was a far stretch. I didn't think that was very realistic. But then, okay, she's in this new school, and she became really studious, and she became one of the top students. And then something weird happened, which I guess we could say, not weird, but tragic to any little girl, which I think a lot of people pass over, where someone grabbed her breasts, and she was, she's a preteen, and it was a hallway monitor, probably a kid her age, and it just goes over that. It doesn't, say anything, and I feel that that's something that, and it didn't have the right perspective on it. I mean, if that's something that was highlighted, it should have been maybe go and talk to her mother about it. Go and reading one of the words in the dictionary, but it didn't really have that. So I thought that was a little bit or sad, because a girl, when that happens, she has to go to someone to talk to, and she really didn't have anyone to talk to. So one of the things I really forgot to mention, which I feel was very traumatic in this book, is that her mother is so for giving everyone these pamphlets. It's her religion, as Laura was saying, this is her religion. And she wants to convince everyone to be communist. So she would take these long walks and drives on these subways in order to give everyone these pamphlets. And what ends up happening, she's taking her daughter there at night. And then one day she says, because her father was a journalist, so he wasn't there right now, is it okay if you just stay here at night? You're okay with that. The girls, what is she, 10, 11 at the time?
They just stay at home.
Yeah. And it was not a good neighborhood, because as we know, she walks certain blocks, everyone is going to be bullying her. She's already having bedwettings. Where is this mother? That's not natural. I mean, it could be, I guess, crazy weather, but we imagine that there's some sort of normalcy to her, and all these people are after her because they want to marry her, but she absolutely is not. I mean, how does that not deter anyone from being this is really not a good mother? So I thought that was really sad. And again, we don't see Davita's response at all, because she's just, this is, that's, I guess, her normal life. She never really absorbed it. So that was really a sad thing. So the mother basically finds out that the father ends up dying. The mother goes crazy, and then she ends up marrying the cousin who's always sitting with her. She ends up marrying this cousin, which I thought was so not realistic. Deborah, did you find that realistic?
That surprised me, for someone who was such a devout communist to then marry someone who was so religious.
Yeah,
and I think the kind of straw that broke the camel's back was that because of the things that Stalin did, she became very disenchanted with communism. And in a sense is going back to her roots of something. I mean, obviously he was a very nice guy.
Yeah, he was very nice, but I thought it wasn't realistic for him to be in love with her. I thought he was just being a friendly cousin. Where's that concept of friendly cousin? I thought, it was just strange to me that he's going to be in love with her enough after seeing her have a complete mental breakdown and be like, oh yeah, I want to marry you. I didn't think that was right.
I mean, this happened over time, I can see, he's a sweet, gentle man, so I can see falling in love with him. And he knew her from way back when.
That's true. But they're cousins.
Are they first cousins?
They are first cousins.
Right.
Yeah. Obviously, there had to be something that the author was thinking about, but in my viewpoint, here she was an independent woman, even though she did have a breakdown. She was not observant. I can't imagine, overnight, even if she would start slowly to come back to her roots, to marry someone who was very observant, to agree with that lifestyle, and to be at home and not working. I think she didn't work. So it was really completely not
Yeah, I mean, I knew after her husband died and the disillusionment with Stalin,
Right.
I can see someone, reinventing themselves again or going back to an old life.
Yeah.
Especially if somebody is more observant, that gives a lot of structure
Yeah.
to their lives. And if she was in a place where, like, she, if her husband died, we said communism was kind of like her faith of what she was holding on to, so she really didn't have, per se, her faith. The breadwinner was gone, maybe, that's her person. I could see someone thriving more under a structure that some, like, observant faith could give you.
Yeah, maybe. At the end, and I'm skipping a lot, so basically what ends up happening, they get married, and they have a baby, which I thought after everything that happened to the mother's body, I didn't think it was anything realistic, but then again, miracles happen. And then at the end, I felt that the girl was working so hard to prove herself, to get this award, and she ends up getting the Akiva award, but they told her you can't have it because you're a girl, and I thought she was going to kill herself. I don't know why. This is what I thought. But I'm like, okay, it has to be kid friendly. It has to be, it's not happening. But I really could imagine, God forbid, somebody in that situation with everything that happened in her life, that she might just go and kill herself, because if her value is how everyone looks at her, and not that she has something for herself, then I thought maybe she was just going to go and do that. And she was so young. So I was like, I'm thankful that's not what happened, but when it started going into that weird storyline, I'm thinking that there was a guy that jumped off this, like, ocean thing. I'm thinking, is that what this show is? I don't know. So I'm glad it didn't go there, but I actually really thought that was going to be the ending. So I'm glad that wasn't the ending, but I felt that it just left us kind of hanging, because this girl didn't really, she didn't really have, I feel like because of everything that happened in her life, she just had like a rough life, and that there wasn't really this like feeling of accomplishment,